Now it's time for Poly Nonsense.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Poly Nonsense, hosted by Captain Kirk.
That's me.
And I am some guy named Jason. On the show today, we have Newsom versus DeSantis, fake letters from real people, errors and corrections, and just the headlines. But first, protesting over the July 4th weekend. Protesters had gathered outside of the home of Justice Amy Coney Barrett. They said there were about 20 to 30 of them. Nothing really too violent, just very disruptive. For me, personally, I find this a little upsetting. I was on the internet the other day, and someone had posted all of the Republican conservative justices' addresses, and it was really disturbing to me. I don't like this trend.
What says independence more than protesting in front of a justice's home?
Well, see, and that's the thing. Protesting is very American. Protesting is part of our nation's history. It's what we should do as a society. But doing it outside of someone's home, I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if that's proper. I find it dangerous.
Not only anybody's home, but a justice's home of the Supreme Court. It is actually against federal code. Under U.S. Code 18, subsection 1507, it specifically says you cannot do that, especially if it's just to intimidate, and that's what they were working on.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking here is, what are they hoping to achieve with this? Because they're not going to get them to change their mind. The ruling is not going to change. What do you think you're going to get by bullying, intimidation? It's like, for me, back in the day when people would have a Free Tibet bumper sticker. What in the world is this bumper sticker going to do? Do you really think that you're going to be coming home in rush hour traffic and some diplomat or politician from China is going to be behind you, seeing your bumper sticker and saying, you know, I think I'm going to give that a second thought? I just don't see how this is going to affect anything.
The idea that this will gin up enough pressure to impeach a sitting Supreme Court justice seems a little far-fetched.
All it is doing is opening the door for violence. Now, whether you agree with the justice, whether you disagree with the justice, putting them in harm's way, putting them in a situation where they or their family or even their neighbors could get injured or killed, that is not a good thing.
Well, just look at how the left reacted when Rand Paul got his ass kicked by his neighbor, Rene Boucher. They called the neighbor a hero, and this wasn't even a protest event. He just got his ass kicked by this crazy neighbor, and they laughed about it.
Tonight at 5:30, new developments in the punishment for Senator Rand Paul's former neighbor down in Bowling Green, Rene Boucher, has been resentenced. He's getting an extra 7 months behind bars and 6 months in home detention for tackling the Kentucky lawmaker over lawn issues in 2017. Boucher was originally given a 30-day sentence after pleading guilty to assaulting a member of Congress. Federal prosecutors argued that sentence was too lenient, describing the attack as, quote, vicious and unprovoked.
So are they actually looking for violence? Are they looking for death? Are they looking for property destruction?
Well, look at the 2020 BLM riots. Mostly peaceful protests that burned down cities, got cops killed, and civilians maimed.
So then theoretically, according to some people, you can protest and there is no real limit to how much you protest?
So long as you're on the right side of history.
This as long as you're not on the right side.
Right.
Governor Gavin Newsom of California, over the July 4th holiday, made a commercial for about $100,000 to promote California, to promote himself. But he didn't release it in California. He released it in Florida. And not only did he release it in Florida, he only released it on Fox channels in Florida. In the commercial, he's stating, "Flee Florida and come to the freer state of California." That's a bold move there, Cotton.
It's Independence Day, so let's talk about what's going on in America.
Come get your abortions and leave your guns behind, I guess is the tagline for that.
Freedom? It's under attack in your state. Your Republican leaders, they're banning books, making it harder to vote, restricting speech in classrooms, even criminalizing women and doctors.
What do you think is the purpose of this ad buy?
I don't know, because I have two thoughts. Obviously, he's trying to make some political hay against DeSantis.
I urge all of you living in Florida to join the fight, or join us in California, where we still believe in freedom.
DeSantis, over the past year, over the pandemic, had really got a lot of culture war points. He got a lot of political points. He's really become a front runner for the GOP.
Freedom of speech, freedom to choose, freedom from hate, and the freedom to love. Don't let them take your freedom.
Paid for by Newsom for California Governor 2022.
On the Democratic side, there is a vacuum with a brain-dead president who no one really wants them to speak for them, with a vice president that has the personality of a kumquat. There is really no one on the Democratic side that can kind of lift that culture war mantle. I think DeSantis, maybe he's trying to step into that, because I don't see him using this to run in 2024.
For any of our kumquat farmers that are listening to this podcast right now, I'd like to apologize on behalf of my co-host Jason.
All right, kumquats have better personality, I'm sorry.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. They need the Democrats to do a standard bearer for 2024 that can actually stand up and not fall down on a stationary bicycle. And they think, I suppose, Newsom might be that guy. How this helps him for 2024, I'm not entirely sure.
Well, it is a brilliant move in the fact that it cost $100,000, but everyone's talking about it. It's all over YouTube. It's got hundreds of thousands of views. It's being discussed by all the pundits. So he's getting a lot of work out of it.
It's called free media. The fact that we are even talking about it provides that coverage that a one-day ad buy doesn't get just by itself.
Right. I don't think DeSantis, I think he had a press secretary respond, and they've been quippy back at him. It's not a big deal. Because when you're coming from a state that has the nation's highest crime, the nation's highest homeless, the nation's highest standard of living, the nation's highest taxes, it's something to tell Floridians to come rushing to California.
A slight correction. It's not the highest standard of living, it's the highest cost of living.
Sorry, cost of living.
Indeed. So we just need to make sure that the Newsom record is stated correctly, because this guy has a lot of money. He has survived a recall effort, and he's probably going to be reelected. So he is coming out of 2020 as the best option for the Democrats in 2024, compared to DeSantis, where he beat Andrew Gillum just by a few points. And if he survives a re-election effort in a purplish state that he is turning red, I think he has more of that electoral credibility than a guy like Newsom, who has a one-party state and is running it into the ground.
So with this 2024 in mind, if Gavin Newsom is going after a projected rival in DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, should DeSantis even run? Because I have heard that Trump wants to announce him running as soon as he can. He probably will wait till after the midterms, but he might do it before the midterms because he's Trump, and God only knows what he's going to do. But once he does that, he's going to be knocking out a lot of Republicans that would have joined had he not announced. Would it even be prudent for DeSantis to want to run for the presidency in 2024?
Exactly. There's a Trump effect where you have the Nikki Haley's of the world, you have Mike Pompeo, you have Mike Pence, all wanting to run in 2024, but are afraid they'll get crushed like the Republicans were against Trump in 2016. DeSantis, who was endorsed by Trump in the Florida gubernatorial election in 2018, is a Trump ally. I don't think they're on unfriendly terms even through these last couple of years. I think he would want to stay back, win re-election, serve through his second term as Florida governor, and then maybe emerge in 2028.
That seems to make more sense. There's a part of me that would like to see a Pence-Trump showdown, but that would probably get pretty ugly pretty quick.
Former Vice President Mike Pence criticized President Biden's handling of the economy continuously in a speech earlier this week. One issue he did not address was any conflict with former President Trump regarding the 2020 election. Here's the closest he came to even discussing the events related to January 6th.
You know, we've all been through a lot over the last several years. A global pandemic, social unrest, a divisive election, a tragic day in our nation's capital, and an administration seemingly every day driving our economy into the abyss of a socialist welfare state.
As you are an independent, you are in favor of DeSantis. You like what he's done in Florida. I think for DeSantis' sake and for the sake of the Republican Party, it'd be better for him to sit tight, run Florida as he is, doing really well on the cultural front, economic front, etc., and then come out in 2028.
Now, for the Newsom angle, he is kind of caught in a hard spot there because he can't say he's going to run, even if he intends to, because right now the head of the party is Joe Biden. So you can't really step on anybody's toes with that. And if Joe Biden doesn't want to run, then theoretically the mantle will be handed down to Harris. And so you don't necessarily want to go against Harris that quickly. But chances are, even Gavin Newsom, in his inadequate job performance, he might be the only reasonable,
viable option
for the Democrats.
Right, as we see with Harris, she is unpopular even among her own constituents. She dropped out in 2020 before the Iowa caucuses even began. She was swooped up as Biden's VP because he backed himself into a corner and he needed a diversity hire. And we see her being given all these different assignments and failing at each one.
So really it's whoever is going to be facing Trump. That's what's going to happen. Trump's going to be taking over the GOP once again.
Right.
So what if, hey, I just thought of something. What if Newsom, he becomes, Biden steps down, Newsom, he becomes the candidate, and he takes Harris as his vice president? Huh?
Why not? It worked out for Biden.
I mean, she's got all the qualifications.
she's been thoroughly vetted.
Welcome back to Poly Nonsense. Now we have a new segment we like to call Fake Letters from Real People. Our first fake letter from Dr. Anthony Fauci. To whom it may concern, I just wanted to send you a quick note about your reporting last week on me getting COVID. To be precise, I got COVID, not science. Although I am science, science cannot get COVID. At least not yet. The NIH has funded different labs in Asia to see if we could give science a sickness, but to date has failed to do so. So the thought that science could get COVID is ridiculous. Science does, however, like to get pastrami on rye, because those are delicious. That being said, please adjust this statement. Also, if you have seen Rand Paul lately, please tell him he is not a doctor, but he is a poo-poo head. Yours scientifically, Anthony Fauci.
It's good to know that science is listening to the podcast.
Our next letter from Salvatore Corleone, Archbishop of San Francisco. Dear Polly Nonsense, it has come to light that despite my refusal to administer the Holy Communion to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, that she has gone over my head and went straight to the Pope. In his classic loving grace grandstanding, he gave it to her. It isn't surprising, really. He always does stuff like this. I think there's a part of him that really likes the spotlight. This past year, when the archbishops visited Rome for the Archbishop Roundup, we were instructed to bring one appetizer each. He, of course, showed up with a huge taco bar. And although the salsa verde was delicious, it was somewhat of an attention grabber. That being said, I will escalate plaint to upper management. Sincerely yours, Archbishop Salvatore Corleone.
Who does this guy think he is, a man of God or something?
And finally, our last letter. This is from Crystal Matthews. Dear Polly Nonsense crew, this is my final statement and apology about the Project Veritas recording my private phone call to a private person in a public prison. I not only want to apologize for what I said, but I don't think this should be the only apology. Project Veritas should apologize for not minding their own damn business. And Perry Correctional Institution should apologize for not telling people that they are always being watched and listened to. That would have been really nice to know. Also, I think that my duffel bag boys should apologize for carrying small bills. There should only be $20 bills and up. I also think that Pixar should apologize for the movie Lightyear. That movie is garbage. Yours apologetically, Crystal Matthews.
I guess it's better than her tongue-in-cheek comment.
Now it's time of the show where we look at our errors and make some corrections. This is where we correct the errors that we made from last week's show. Now, last week, Kirk, you called me this guy, Jason.
Ooh.
My name is some guy named Jason.
Sorry, I know it's 2022. I need to respect proper monikers.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I said that Seattle was the capital of Washington. It is Olympia. I apologize for that.
How do you mix those two up?
I don't know. I apologize. And now, just the headlines we just didn't get to. A couple fined $1,500 for parking in their own driveway.
J.K. Rowling supports Bette Midler and Macy Gray after they're accused of transphobic comments.
There's got to be some magic in that. Rebel Wilson shares a weight gain message in a bathing suit. Now, my thought is the bathing suit giving the message, or is she giving the message in a bathing suit? I don't understand.
Quite frankly, I don't want the image in my head.
She looks good now, though. I don't know.
Good for her. Body positive. More Americans leaving California for Mexico amid inflation and soaring home prices.
My goodness, Mexico though? Do they have indoor plumbing?
I mean, it's one thing to turn California to Mexico, but can you turn Mexico into California?
I don't think Mexico wants that.
I don't think it wanted either.
Well, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to Poly Nonsense. If you want to contact us, you can go to polynonsense.com. Leave us a note. Let us know if you like us or if you don't like us. Just let us know, and we'll check you again next time.